Well, here we are live. It's been a while. Not only since I've last done a live stream, but I think in general since I've last done a video in general. But I thought, you know what, I've got a bit of free time on my hands, so let's not. Why not do a live impromptu review and see how it goes. Now, I don't know if this is going to go for a while or if it's just going to be a short one. Like I said, this is pretty much just going like off the cuff at the moment. So yeah, if anybody is going to jump in or not, I don't know. This is just a very free ball kind of thing. Um, I've literally just like set up the stream and press live, and presto, here we are at the moment. Now, if I may give a little bit of background, so I mean, at the moment, it has been quite a while since my last review. I think unfortunately I've just kind of found myself in a bit of a rut where I've lost a bit of motivation at the moment. I guess there's just a lot of like personal things just going on at the moment. So I guess every time I kind of feel like I want to do a video, something always manages to come up, and then I thought, yeah, I can't be bothered. So um, yeah, it's not that I don't want to, um, or yeah, it's not so much that I don't want to do any videos or that I've disappeared completely. At the moment, it is just more so a matter of just a total lack of motivation. So I thought that I would just kind of like just kick things off at the moment with a live review and just and see how we go from that. I think at the moment I will just start off with a bit of Buffalo Trace in the glass, just to kind of get the palate going a little bit. It's always a nice, easy whiskey to start off with, and we'll see how we go. So we've got a couple of people in the chat, or so on the stream viewing at the moment. So um, feel free to jump in on the comments and say hi. I must say I do enjoy the Buffalo Trace quite a bit. It probably is one of my favorite like go-to bourbons. I think it's just a very friendly, very easy and approachable bourbon. Lots of like vanilla, cherry and pepper, bit of oak notes as well coming through. So you always get your typical bourbon palate with a touch of rye as well. It's a very versatile bourbon. Let's see. It's been a while since I've played around with StreamYards as well. So let's throw up a welcome to Prestige Liquid's ticker tape thing. It's always good to have something going along the bottom of the screen. Yeah. Oh, mate. We've got Matthias in the chat. Man, of all the people that would have thought that may have jumped in today, I think you probably would have been the last person that I was expecting. But mate, as always, it is amazing to see you here. Cheers, Broaden. I think that's probably one of the few Danish words that I remember if I said it correctly. If not, please forgive me. And let's say if you have not yet done so, subscribe to Prestige Liquids. I mean, I'm not very active, but you never know. This may kick off a, this may kick off like a new form of motivation for me to kind of get the ball rolling again. And we can stop that as well. Oh, cheers, Matthias. Thank you for joining in, mate. If you're able to stick around for as long as you can, that's great. If not, mate, I'll message you personally and we'll talk again another time. I must say I do enjoy the rye note on the Buffalo Trace. It has a nice minty freshness. It's a very herbal. It's a very herbal note. Um, I have to say it's actually quite similar in style to what we get on a lot of Australian rye whiskies as well. I do find that a lot of Australian rye does tend to differ quite a bit from US, from the US style of rye. I find Australian rye tends to be a bit more earthy in style, where you say some of the US types of rye that I've had in, say, just like general bourbons tend to be a bit more on the herbal medicinal side. Um, but again, I enjoy all kinds, and yeah, say all are enjoyable. Now, since I've kind of gotten that out of the way at the moment, I guess obviously in the thumbnail of this, I have shown the Starward Panettone. Now, as part of full disclosure goes, this is a whiskey that was sent to me by Starward quite a while ago now, probably about or maybe 2 or 3 months, maybe a little bit longer if I could be mistaken, but it was a while ago. Um, so I figured, well, why not tonight just do a bit of a review on this particular release. So let me open it up. I mean, this is a very like fancy like packaging kind of like box that Starwood have chosen to go with this. And obviously, like panettone is a style of like Italian like fruit cake, I guess. So let's open up the box. I'll say it literally just folds on like open. It kind of reminds me of the egg from Alien. So it's a bit, yeah. I personally did find the box a bit much, but I mean it is there it is quite presentable and something different. So let's, now that we've got it out of the box, let's open it up, pour some into the glass, and see how we go for the review. So just for a bit of information, this is bottled at 40% ABV. I believe that the Starwood Twofold is the base of this. I'm just trying to think. Let me just try. Bear with me for a bit. I think there is quite a bit of information here somewhere. I know on the box they do have a few different like cocktail recipes and things like that, but I'm trying to find some more specific information. nothing that I can see specifically on the box itself. I don't know. From memory, I always thought that there was a bit more. Frederick, how are you, mates? Oh, man, I've got Europe showing up for me. I had Matthias in from Denmark. Now I've got Frederick from Sweden. Um, right, if you are able to, I would love to have you join in on the stream if you're able to. If you like, let me see if I can paste. This has been a while. Mate, there's a link there. If you're able to join me, please feel free to do so. It would be great to chat with you. Just bear with me at the moment. Like I said, I'm just trying to find a little bit of extra information about this. So basically, what they're saying on the bottle for this is that we've taken our versatile, deliciously approachable twofold whiskey and have been inspired by the Christmas dried fruit panettone notes, celebrating our founder Dave's Australian Sicilian holiday traditions and the warmth of the summery Australian Christmas. We are excited to share our limited edition panettone whiskey, folding twofold quintessential tropical notes with the luscious dried fruit and almond notes of a tawny barrel finish, the finest panettone in the bottle. So, I guess with this is that they've taken the Starward base spirit and also finished it off in some X20 casks, which it's not really much of a surprise there in the past, um, especially if you have been following my channel for some time now, then you would already be aware that Starward have released a few 20 cask expressions, and all of which have been absolutely fantastic. But it is also great to see that they are also utilizing those casks for other releases. So I guess waste not, want not. All right, let's see what we get for the review on the nose. So it is very tropical, and the one thing you definitely get is it's the Starward banana. It's the one thing, that one quintessential note that makes Starward Starward, and that is that it's that green. Yeah, it's like a unripe green banana, or those like banana musk lollies. Um, that is just one note that essentially just transcends every single Starward release. If you get that banana note, then you've got you have a Starward whiskey in your glass. So I'm also getting like touches of pineapple, a little bit of mango. There is definitely like a note of like freshly squeezed orange, some mandarin peel. It definitely has a hint of oak, vanilla, white pepper, which I am not 100% sure on this, but normally a white pepper note tends to lead me in the direction of a French oak cask. But again, I don't have that information to to actually prove that. But normally, when I get a white pepper note, it tends to be French oak. But like I said, I could be mistaken. Tobacco, chocolate. More of in terms of chocolate, is that it is definitely more of like a milk chocolate note. It has a creaminess to it. It's quite malty as well. You definitely get that cereal grain influence coming through, and that would, I guess, be coming through from um, the start, like from the twofold aspect of that. Uh, at least in that whiskey, they have used a combination of barley and wheat. So it's not just a straight barley whiskey. It does have that wheat influence coming through on it, which also helps to add a little bit of extra sweetness to it as well. As this opens up, it just expresses more. So now I'm starting to get a few more earthier notes coming through, like touches of leather. Those tobacco notes become a bit more prominent as well. It is very much like a cigar leaf wrapper, dried apricots, raisins, prunes. What else? There's definitely something else there. I'm kind of blanking on what it is at the moment, but there is. Now, this is definitely not peated, but there is a very subtle smoky element coming through as well. So it could be some barrel char influence. Like I said, definitely not peated, um, but it does have that element of smoke which could be coming through from the cask. Alrighty, let's move on to the palate and see how we go. So, cheers. Mm. This really does take you back to twofold. Now, it has been quite a while since I last had a bottle of twofold. Um, so you, I am a bit. I will say that my memory is a bit vague of what its full characteristics were like. But I am getting um, that it is more of like that cereal grain influence that's coming through from it. So you do get a lot of that like malted barley, um, that sweetness from the wheat. It is very cereal grain prominent. Now, I don't know if this is a cereal that is common in other countries, but at least in Australia, it reminds me of a cereal we have called Nutrigrain. So you do have that kind of like wheaty, grainy influence, kind of like a little bit of like a an oatmeal as well. Yeah. So the palate is quite light, but it also has a very nice, like it does have a nice texture to it. Now, considering that it is only 40%, normally you get a bit of a sacrifice in texture in like that kind of ABV level. I do personally find that a lot of the 40% whiskies tend to be very light. They do not have much of a body to them, and say very little mouthfeel at all. It is it does almost feel like having, I guess, just a bit of a flavored water, really. But at least with this one, you do have a bit of spice and accent to it. So you are getting that oakier influence coming in. Excuse me. Um, there is again those white pepper notes coming through. Now, in terms of that, the creaminess, it's milk chocolate all the way. You've got this as like the whiskey just kind of coats your mouth. It just forms this nice, sweet, creamy, chocolatey texture. It has a hint of vanilla coming through as well, and then as that vanilla note kind of dies away, you're getting more of those earthier characteristics. So, as I mentioned before on the nose, I am getting more of those leathery notes. Again, more of the cigar leaf tobacco. So basically, like whatever's following through on the nose is what's also like coming through on the palate as well. I am also getting some more dried fruit notes. I think on the nose, those fruitier notes were probably a bit more of a like a fresh fruit variety. On the palate, though, it's more of a dried fruit. So I'm thinking more along the lines of like dried apricots, dried peaches, again, dried mango as well. There's also like a touch of passion fruit, which again is not a very common note on a whiskey, but that's definitely what I'm getting at the moment. There's a certain acidity that's coming through that's mixing in with those tropical fruits, and I have to say that is a subtle hint of passion fruit. That's one thing that I have to say that I do enjoy about doing the um, like a live stream review. When you do a regular when you do a regular review, when you do your edits and things like that, everything is kind of just like off the cuff. It's just very you kind of get, or you more so express what you get in the moment. But I think the one great thing about doing these kind of reviews on a live stream is that you just really get to take your time with it and just really let it um, you kind of really let you really are able to let the like the whiskey open up and develop and just see how it evolves. Well, let's see if we get anything else on the nose. It's kind of papery. I think I am getting a bit of like a wet cardboard note. At the moment, it really hasn't changed all that much. I really am enjoying the like that chocolatey creaminess of it. And then again, those chocolate notes kind of fade away, then more of that like vanilla and caramel kind of come through. It just I think this is one of those whiskies where there's kind of like a lot going on, but there isn't at the same time. You do have like a lot of prominent notes, which I think is this definitely those kind of like prominent notes that you get definitely make this very well suited for like an introductory whiskey, and that is something that I would say that the Starward Twofold is perfect for. Um, if you are after a good introductory style whiskey, especially if you are new to whiskey and just really just trying to develop your palate, whiskies like this are definitely going to help you. Um, yeah, they're very good palate development whiskeys. If we go along to the finish on this, again, more of the same notes that we've already had on the nose and the palate. Again, it's those tropical fruits, the dried apricots, mango. Not so much of the passion fruit on the finish. That was definitely more of a more prominent note that was there on the palate. It's extremely subtle on the finish. I will say though, one differing note that's coming through on the finish is a bit of an ashiness. It instead of a smoky characteristic, it is more of an ashier note. It's the aftertaste is actually quite dry. The one thing that I might try and do now. Oh nope, that's the Buffalo Trace. We don't want to mix that. I might just pour a touch more. And I'll pour just a little bit of water. And we'll see how that goes. All right, so I think the water has definitely brought more of the like the vanilla and that banana note to the forefront. I mean, those notes were already quite dominant, like to begin with, but it seems to have um, just or I should say lifted more so. I think elevated is the word that I'm looking for. The water has helped to elevate those notes a bit more prominently. The oak is still there. Same with the spice. I will say though that now I am also starting to notice more of those baking spices. So like cinnamon, nutmeg, cardamom. I wasn't really noticing those so much initially, but they are coming through now that I've added the water. It's quite grassy and herbal as well now. So imagine like freshly mown lawn. Also dry grass as well, which probably suits the kind of Australian climate at the moment now. We are in the middle of winter, sorry, in the middle of summer at the moment. So obviously, like if we go like walking outside, we do get a lot of that um, kind of like dry vegetation smell in the air. A little bit of eucalypt, some honeysuckle. Yeah, it certainly has more of a floral bouquet at the moment. Okay, so adding adding the water has definitely had a bigger impact on the palate than I was hoping that it would. Um, I should have expected it. I mean, obviously, it was already quite light to begin with, especially with being at the 40% ABV. Um, but now the water has pretty much wiped out the texture and mouthfeel of the whiskey. So it does kind of give it a more one-dimensional aspect. Um, you still have flavor there, don't get me wrong. You definitely still have flavor, but you are not getting any kind of oral sensation, for want of better word. Um, that ashiness is more prominent. That's one thing that I didn't get like on the palate before. That was more so a note that was coming through on the finish, but now adding the water to it, I am noticing more of that ashy kind of barrel cask smokiness to it. The chocolatey note has changed more from a milk chocolate to a dark chocolate. It does have the the sweetness has kind of changed and moved more in the direction of a bitter note, which again more characteristic of that dark chocolate influence. Obviously, when you have a like the milk chocolate notes, it is definitely more sweeter. Now that the dark chocolate influence is coming through, it's more of um, it's definitely more of a bitter note. The vanilla is still there, the dried fruits as well, but those notes are quite a lot more subtle than what they were uh, originally on the palate before adding the water. Um, it is. I'm still getting those notes of like the dried apricot, the dried peach, and mango, but like I mentioned, um, it's a lot lighter. Now, I was kind of hoping that adding the water would have added a bit more of an influence to the flavor, but really it hasn't. A lot of the flavor profile, say much of the flavor profile is still essentially the same um, as what I had originally on the palate before adding the water. Obviously, just adding water to it has just really wiped out the texture. But at least having said that, even though the texture is gone, the flavor is still there. But it just makes it a bit more of a boring experience rather than something that makes you want to keep going back to it. So if you do have a bottle of this, my recommendation is do not add water to it. You're just going to you will just end up wiping out um those kind of characteristics that you just want to like hold on to. Hmm. Now that's finished, I would say that my final notes on this particular whiskey is, look, it's a perfectly enjoyable whiskey. Um, it is it is quite nice, but it at the same time, say it's not the best release from Starwood. Oh, I've just gotten distracted. Alan, how are you, mate? Long time no see. Man, it's been a long time since I've spoken to you, and I hope that you are doing well. Um, it's fantastic to see you pop up in the chat. Mate, if you are, I did kind of get it. So I have kind of got into the end portion of this particular review, but if you are up for joining me in a little bit of a chat and catch up, I think there is a link there in the comments. So feel free to jump on in. Otherwise, at the moment, I don't know how much longer this stream is going to be going for. This is just a very kind of like impromptu thing. So uh, yeah, if you're free to stick around, then by all means, feel free to join in. It will be great to have you in for a chat. Uh, but again, moving on to the my final notes on this. As I mentioned, not exactly the best release from Starwood. It is essentially just the twofold, um, but it just has that little bit of something extra going on with it, considering that it's also had the tawny finish. Uh, yeah, they have used the tawny cast to add that little extra finishing touch to it. So you do get those kind of like subtle stewed fruits to it that you do not get in the standard twofold release. So at least you do get something a little bit different, but again, it's not prominent enough to say like, wow, this is absolutely incredible. Um, but having said that, though, I guess previous to this, there have been quite a few other Starwood releases, especially with their 20 cask releases, especially that have been absolutely amazing. This one, though, just falls a bit short. It would be something that I mean, look, I still have about 3/4 of the bottle of this left to go. I will enjoy this for what it is, I think, but if I had the option to purchase it again, I would obviously go um for for something else. But yeah, I mean, I've been quite fortunate with a lot of the Starwood whiskies that I've tried in the past. The majority of them have been just absolutely phenomenal, and the downside is that a lot of them are extremely limited releases, and you just won't really get a chance to try them again. So you really just need to enjoy those for what they. Yeah, you just really need to like take the moment to enjoy them for what they are, and just hope that you're able to experience more. Oh man, I am very rusty at this. Obviously, um, yeah, I'm sure that you can tell from, I guess, my lack of vocabulary at the moment. It's been a long time since I've last done a review. Yeah, this is absolutely crazy, but it does feel good to just kind of jump back into it again and put a review out there. Like I said, it has been a long time. So I'm kind of hoping that this, I guess, doing this particular review at least will kind of reignite the passion that I had before for doing whiskey reviews, and especially Australian whiskey reviews. I mean, I've been one of the few channels out there that has had the opportunity to uh, to share Australian whiskies with you. I mean, majority of whiskey drinkers out there are definitely more, say, Scotch and bourbon orientated, and it is very hard to be able to get your hands on, say, Australian whiskies. So um, that has definitely been one of the passions of mine, and one of my main motivations behind keeping my channel going was just to be able to share the world of Australian whiskey with the rest of you. Um, Let me see. Maybe I might keep this going just touch, a touch longer. All right, Alan, you're saying keep them coming, fella. All right, let's see what I've got down here. Just bear with me. Oh God, so unprofessional. Oh, definitely not prepared. Not prepared at all. Uh, Alrighty, what have I got here? All right, so here we have a Tasmanian. This is a Tasmanian whiskey. This one is from Iniquity. Now, for the last few months now, I have been subscribing to an Australian whiskey subscription service called Barrel Lane. Uh, Barrel Lane have been absolutely fantastic. They are essentially independent bottlers that have been sourcing whiskies from like so many different Australian distilleries, many of which that I normally don't get a chance to um, say, many of which I have definitely not had a chance to try due to the fact that they just tend to be so expensive. And generally, Iniquity is one of those. Their regular releases that I have seen online before they are very expensive. Um, but again, the one good thing about Barrel Lane is that you do get to try many of these whiskies at a much more affordable price. And the other the other amazing thing is that all the releases that I have had so far have been all bottled in 700 ml bottles, which, if you have been following my channel for a while now, you would already know that many of the Australian whiskies that I have tried before, they generally tend to be put in 500 ml bottles. And again, as I mentioned, they're very expensive. Having, say, something like this and other releases that I've had from the Barrel Lane company, um, coming in at 700 ml coming in at 700 ml bottles at about, say, $100 to $150 Australian, is actually, say, very good value. And so far, I have not come across one that I've been disappointed by. I think I've had about 6 releases from them so far, and every single one has been fantastic. The only one that I have rejected so far was a release from Helliers Road. Generally speaking, I'm not a fan of Helliers Road. Unfortunately, whatever I've tried of their core release, I've never really enjoyed. I have been told quite often, though, that a lot of their more, say, special releases are supposed to be very good. But when I saw the Helliers Road option pop up, I'm like, I don't think I'm going to. I don't think I'm going to risk spending my money on this, and I kind of just saved it for the next release. Now, unfortunately, I don't have it with me at the moment. But one thing that I do really like from Barrel Lane is that with every release that you get from them, um, they provide a booklet with information about the distillery and also information about the the particular release. They go into detail regarding the cask types that are used, the length of maturation, pretty much all the info that a whiskey geek wants and needs to have. At the moment, basically, all I can uh, go off from this is from the bottle, and I have to make a correction. I said that this was a Tasmanian whiskey. It is not. It's South Australian. So let me I'll make that clear. Not a Tasmanian whiskey, it is South Australian. It's also bottled at 45% ABV. It's also non-chill filtered. Now, again, I don't have any of the other information regarding this on hand at the moment. It could be over there somewhere, but again, I'm not going to get up again and try to look for it. Let's just let's just explore what we get from the glass, and let me see if my own personal experience can determine what we have in here. But before we get into it, I may just have a sip of water first, just to kind of cleanse my palate a bit. And we'll go from there. So apparently we've got 2 people in the chat at the moment. I think Alan, if you're still there, thank you. To anybody else, please drop a comment and say hi. Okay. It's quite waxy, actually. Lots of vanilla and caramel. So, Alan, you said you're out and about. Whereabouts are you at the moment? Where are you out and about? Now, this could be lightly peated. It definitely has that earthy smokiness to it. At the moment, it's kind of reminding me of a Lafroig, but without that without that sea air. It doesn't have that same level of salinity. If this is peated, I will say though that it is not an Australian peat. I am aware that a few of the other like South Australian distilleries before have used peat that comes from Inverness. Um, I do not know where say exactly like what region Inverness comes from, or well, I should say where Inverness is located. Alan, since you are in the chat, if you are since you are from Scotland or living in Scotland, I should say, if you could just if you are aware, please let me know roughly what region Inverness falls into. So I know normally if Australian distilleries aren't using locally sourced peat, they are normally sourcing peat from Inverness. Oh, why am I about to take a sip? You know, screw it. Let me take a sip. Yep, that's peated. It's definitely peated. Oh, okay, let's pop that up onto the screen. So Inverness is up in the Highlands. Thank you for that, Alan. All right, so on the nose. So, like I said, smoky, peaty, but not a coastal peat. Very oaky, lots of vanilla, touch of caramel. The barley note is definitely there. It is very like cereal, like that cereal grain orientated. I'm going in for a sip, but I am finding that having that extra sip is kind of helping with breaking down the notes of the palate of sorry of the nose. Sorry. All right, so again, quite ashy. Now I did mention that this is kind of like a Lafroig, but without that salty salinity. I'm going to change that. It's reminding me more of Talisker. Yeah, it definitely does not have that medicinal quality that you would get in a Lafroig. This has more of it has this is very much reminding me of Talisker. Basically, I'm drinking Australian Scotch. So as it opens up, it's more grassy, more herbal. So think of like dried grass, or say you're walking through like a bit more of like a foresty environment. It's it's vegetal. Alan, mate, thank you for joining in on the chat. Unfortunately, we didn't get a chance to speak face to face this time, but I appreciate you stopping by. It is it's just a privilege to still see these people that I've started up with in on my whiskey tube journey still coming through and supporting. I mean, at the start, I had Matthias, I had Frederick, I've had you come through now as well. So it's like the whole whiskey pool team coming back together. But mate, thank you for joining in on the chat. I really do appreciate you dropping by. Enjoy your meal, and hopefully we'll be able to have a chat sometime soon in the future. Cheers, mate. Sludger. Some more honeysuckle notes. It is very woody. The oak influence on the nose is definitely very prominent, but it does also have more of an Australian twist to it as well. Like I said, it's not just oak, it's also Australian vegetation. So I'm getting those notes of like an Australian forest, like dried, like eucalyptus leaves. Yeah, it's very Australian. I think those of you that have, I'll say, if you are Aussies or if you have traveled to Australia before and you have, say, walked through an Australian forest, you will definitely understand what I mean by those like eucalypt notes and that dry, um, that that dry foresty air. All right, let's move on to the palate and see how we go. I know I've taken a few sneaky sips already, but this is official. Let's see what we get. Again, okay. So the peat is definitely prominent. It is one of the main things that you'll notice. But I find the texture is what gets you. It's very dry, very ashy, but at the same time syrupy as well. It does have a very full mouth coating texture. And then as that ashiness fades away, you do get a lot of like vanilla and caramel. Those vegetal notes come through as well. So more of that like honeysuckle, the dried grass. Mm. So more of that dried fruit element is coming in as well. Now, on the nose, I was very much describing this along the lines of a more Isla style whiskey with a combination of that like Talisker influence as well. But on the palate, it is very much more. If I was to compare this to a Scotch, or I should say more of a Scotch style whiskey. Obviously, this is Australian, so it's not Scotch. But if I was to compare it to a Scotch regional style, I'm swaying more along the styles of, say, a Speyside Highland style of whiskey. Um, you do get that ashy smokiness from the peat coming through, though it's very grassy, and that is definitely an influence that I get specifically from Speyside style of whiskies, and obviously quite a few um, like bourbon cask Highland releases. Quite chocolatey. Again, with this particular whiskey, it's more of a dark chocolate. Sorry, it is more of a dark chocolate note. Um, it has that bitterness to it. It's quite leathery as well. I'm getting quite a bit of tobacco also. Again, more of a cigar style of tobacco and smokiness. Mm. I just wish that there was more information on the bottle. Like I said, if I had the booklet on hand, I would be able to provide a lot more detailed information, but I do not have it within reach at the moment. Um, Moving along to the finish, it is definitely quite ashy. The peatiness, I would say, is the main influence that I'm getting on the finish. So it is like peat, ash, and smoke. Then you have the sweetness from the vanilla coming in. I do kind of feel like I am getting more of a burnt sugar influence as well. Again, those dried fruits as well. I could be mistaken, but from memory, this may have also had some kind of tawny or like a pera, which is Australian sherry. I think it may have had that kind of influence, which so I think it may have had that kind of cask influence, which would then be influencing that kind of stewed fruits that I'm getting. I'm also noticing a bit more of a baking spice influence as well. So again, the cinnamon, cardamom, touch of nutmeg. There, if I do dig a little bit further, if I go a bit more of the herbal route, bit of oregano as well. So I don't know. This is I don't know. Maybe my palate is just a bit fried at the moment. I did just review the Starwood before this, so I could be getting mixed up. But hey, who's to say I'm wrong? That's what I'm getting at the moment. So um, yeah, look, I think we've gone over an hour. Um, I did not expect to kind of go this long. I didn't really have any expectations, but I think I'll leave it at that. Thank you for everybody that jumped in onto the chat today. Um, it was fantastic to hear from friends that I have not spoken to for quite a while now. So it was amazing to see you come into the chat. Thank you very much. I appreciate every single one of you. And yeah, I think I'm just going to leave it at that. My name is Andrew. I'll see you all again on the next video. Get this.